Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Nguyen. You've probably seen me around campus. I teach government and economics, and probably some of you are my students as well. And so I mainly teach seniors. And Mr. Miranda asked me to give a little bit of background on myself, and so I just want to share with you some of my background in history. And also just to share with you some of the books that I grew up reading and that I actually enjoy reading, and it has meant something to me. And so one of my favorite authors is Charles Dickens. And Charles Dickens, I like him because he writes about his time period. So if you want to study the Industrial Revolution, Dickens is a perfect, he cites it. If you read his book, you learn about the Industrial Revolution. Stuff just as, A Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, one of the classics, A Christmas Carol, David Copperfield, Hard Times. So for me, the book that meant the most and one of my favorite books of all times is Great Expectations. Because Great Expectations, a lot of the character growing up, his background and stuff, and what he's expecting out of life, it just means a lot to me, okay? And so just basically my background, I was a Vietnamese refugee, a boat person, where I left Vietnam. I escaped communism. I had to sneak out of the country, and I snuck out on a boat, and I had to hide, a couple of days in the villages, basically in the plantations before I can get to the boat. And so by the time we got to the boat, it was basically a wooden boat, half the size. Your classroom that you're in, it's half that size, and I was with my whole family, and total was like 101 people. I still have the count, I remember it. And so, we stayed on the boat for 7 days, ran out of food, ran out of water, starving, and then we got rescued by a Greek oil tanker. Luckily, after 14 days out on the sea, 14 boats, and passed almost 14 days out of the sea. So we got rescued by a Greek oil tanker, right? And then they basically took us to Singapore because that's on the way there. And we got to Singapore refugee camp, and we were there. I stayed in refugee camp for over a year in various camps, Singapore, Indonesia. And so, I know what it is like to be poor because I've been poor. I know what it's like to be homeless because for a major part, I was homeless at that time. And so for me, it was, Great Expectations is just a big book. I know what it's like to live in a tent with your family for, a number of times. We waited for food, we waited for water, we got in line for, rations. Just, if you ever know what refugees is, just Google it. But like I said, I know what it's like. And then coming to America, people say America is going to be great, but, this is the 1980s. I don't speak English. I had to learn it. And it was just hard, right? So growing up in Georgia, 1982, African Americans and white. That's it. That's the population of Columbus, Georgia. There's no Chinese, Vietnamese. I was the only one. My family were the only, kids in the school that were Vietnamese, and to us, everybody we would consider Chinese. And so learning English, we would have to go to English class in a separate classroom, and there was only 3 of us. It was myself. I spoke Vietnamese, and there was an Indian girl that spoke Hindu, and there was a Mexican girl that spoke Spanish. We did not understand each other because we didn't speak each other's language, and we didn't understand the teacher because she taught us English. And so it was very hard for me, but at the same time, I guess it made me stronger because I didn't have anything to fall back on. It was sink or swim. So I learned English, and I learned it, and I picked it up quick, and I learned English by just watching American movies, a lot of movies, right? Not movies, but TV shows, Saturday morning cartoons, and that was it. And that's how I learned English through the years. And then my Southern accent is still here, and then I moved to California, and that's when, it kind of faded away. But yeah, it was, the 80s is not like today. There's no anti-bullying campaign. You either took it, or you cried, or you went home. Telling the teacher doesn't really help because you get bullied again. But like I said, with Great Expectations, that's kind of the thing. You have to go through the trials and tribulations of growing up. And then, of course, growing up in in LA, Asian, went to school, got hooked up with other Asians, and it was just like, some of my friends were like, gangs and stuff like that. And if you read Great Expectation, there's always the side hustle that his friends trying to do. There's always trying to get rich, quick schemes, and it's kind of part of growing up. But my mom made sure that we stuck to our values and education, and I do think that was the way out. And my mom really kept us in line, or else I had to answer to my mom. I got in fights all the time at school because I was picked on all the time. I had to fight back, but I was always afraid of my mom. That was the one thing. You could get hit at school, is okay, but you come home, mom be waiting, she'll give that disappointed look, and that's how you made a mistake. Yeah, and so my mom would always tell us, my brother and myself, that we didn't risk our life in the South China Sea on a boat with 100 other people, live in a refugee camp, do all that so you can come over here and not do well in school and mess up and join a gang or do something stupid. And I remember my senior year when I got accepted to UCLA, and then I still hang around with friends. And one day we got into a big gang fight with another Vietnamese group. And so I came home, and my mom, we drive a station wagon, and all the windows were busted. And my mom came out, and she looked at it, and she looked at me, and she gave me the most disappointing look. And that's when I knew. I mean, it was bad, all the cars smashed. And she said, "You getting accepted to UCLA, and what are you doing?" And that was it. So when I read Great Expectation, it just means a lot to me. So in Great Expectation, you have Pip, he's growing up. All of a sudden, he's somebody, basically he has a sponsor that treats him really well, pays his way through his whole life, gets him educated. And so to me, thinking back, it was like an opportunity that I would take when I came to America. And my mom made sure that we got an education, even though she wasn't educated. I mean, she did go to high school, but she didn't really pass high school. And so, but she learned enough English to survive in America starting out. And so, so when you read A Great Expectation, you get a chance to read it, you'll see how, what's expected of him as the main character. What does he want out of life? And the main thing is, I realized that, I mean, I'm not rich today, as you know, but I'm not poor either. But I do think that America has given me the opportunity to make myself better. I have a different worldview than if I lived in Vietnam. I wouldn't know things like I do here. I wouldn't be educated as I was here. And also, the good thing is, for the rest of my legacy, my kids will be educated. My kids will be better than how I started. And I think that's the main point. You're here for great expectations, but it depends on what it is. It's not like you're going to be successful and rich. There are going to be pitfalls in life, up and down. And I think that's the main point. And so some of the most memorable lines for me in Great Expectation was how Pip was growing up. He was seeing things differently. And I think one of the main lines is because in Vietnam, I didn't have pens and pencils. Well, we did, but I didn't have them. And so I still, in first and even kindergarten, I was using basically ink pens where we dip in ink and then we would write, and I would have some. And for me, having a pencil and pen, the regular pen and pencil, this is 1980, right? I was in the kindergarten. So having a pen or pencil meant a lot. So I would always try to be like the top 2 or 3 top students in class so I can get a ruler, a pencil, and paper. And so one of the lines in The Great Expectation was, there was something very comfortable in having plenty of stationery, like having a lot of school supplies or just writing utensils. And for me, that was like, wow, that's why it bothered me. Well, it didn't bother me, but I guess that's why it hit me that, wow, I enjoy having paper. And then, some other lines as like, I haven't broken, but I hope into a better shape, or I must be taken as I have been made. The success is not mine, the failure is not mine, but the two together make me who I am, right? And I think one of the other lines, I had to Google it again, but it was like, suffering has been stronger than all the other teachings, and has taught me to understand what your heart needs to be. I've been broken, bent, but I hope into a better shape. That was the second part. But like I said, in Great Expectations, you don't learn from your success. I think you learn from your failures more than anything. You learn what to not to do, because when you are successful, you've done it, and you can look back what you've done. But successful people have made a lot of mistakes and failures, and if you ask them, that's what they'll say. And I think that Great Expectation does teach you that. And here's the cool part: in Great Expectations, there's actually two endings, right? And then when his original ending, Dickens wrote the original ending, but his friends, what I read was that his friends said it was kind of sad, so they asked him to rewrite and give a different ending. And to me, that's like, well, it has a lot of significance. It means that you can always change the story, right? If you're the author, but more importantly, Great Expectations, there are more than one ending. So it's just not one straight road. There are curves and lines till you get there. And so that, to me, Great Expectation is that. It's actually really good. And so where you are in life doesn't mean that where you'll be. You can still change it, which is pretty cool. Anyways, thank you, and enjoy your reading. And do well in class, okay?